In the somber murmur of pre-dawn, Ketchikan rested between the silhouettes of wilderness and the edge of civilization. The rugged town, awash in the muted hues of the Alaskan landscape, was a spectral tableau, shrouded in the enigma of the vanishing light as the midnight sun retreated and the northern lights staged their eerie waltz across the firmament. A solitary figure shuffled through this haunting panorama, his footsteps a lonely percussion against the silence. Detective Arthur McHugh, a man of hard-won years and even harder-won wisdom, was a stalwart remnant of the past. His eyes, the color of the stormy Alaskan sea, carried a distinct gleam of perseverance and resolve, belying the weariness that lay beneath. His chiseled face, lined with a lifetime of relentless pursuit of truth, bore the weathered testament of relentless toil and an intimate acquaintance with sorrow. His office, a symphony of stacked papers and case files, was dimly lit by the spectral glow of a solitary lamp. He sat in silent contemplation, his gaze drifting over the piles of unsolved cases, his mind grappling with the elusive threads of reality. Among the sea of unsolved mysteries, the files about the recent disappearances seemed to pull him with an uncanny allure. Each person missing had their final moments traced back to the city's aging junkyard, a seemingly innocent place turned eerie by the cloak of inexplicable mystery. "Something about this place," McHugh mumbled to himself, his fingers tracing the edges of the grainy black and white picture of the junkyard. It bore the silent witness of abandoned memories, decades of discarded fragments, a chaos of the forgotten. And now, it appeared, the junkyard was discarding the people who dared to tread within its haunted expanse. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock. Officer Maggie Smith, a young recruit with an earnest gaze, entered with a worried expression. "Detective McHugh," she started, handing over a new file. "Another one vanished. Last seen near the junkyard." The room was filled with an uneasy silence, the weight of her words sinking in. McHugh's steely gaze met hers. "Another one, huh?" he muttered, the ghost of a sigh escaping his lips. "Yes, sir," Maggie affirmed, her voice slightly tremulous. "What could possibly be happening there?" McHugh studied the file intently, his mind running through a gauntlet of possibilities, discarding each one as too mundane, too common, for the uncanny happenings that were unfolding. "I don't know, Smith, not yet, but I'm hell-bent on finding out," he asserted, his tone carrying a grim determination. The rising dawn cast long shadows across the room, a testament to the mysteries held close in the heart of the silent town. With the new day, a deeper plunge into the enigma was inevitable. As McHugh stood, his gaze hardened, reflecting the ceaseless quest for truth that had defined his existence. He knew he would need all his courage and open-mindedness for the strange journey ahead. "The junkyard," he thought, a shiver running down his spine. "I must explore its secrets." The world was a cacophony of color and light as Detective Arthur McHugh drove through the heart of Ketchikan. The town was teeming with life, yet beneath the seeming normalcy, a haunting undercurrent pulsed. His destination, the junkyard, was a monstrous graveyard of the discarded, the ruined, the forgotten. It sprawled on the outskirts of town, a testament to the ceaseless cycle of human consumption and neglect. Arriving, he parked his battered vehicle next to the junkyard's rickety gate, its rusted iron groaning a mournful greeting as he pushed it open. Before him spread an ocean of derelict vehicles, a labyrinthine chaos of rusted metal, broken glass, and ancient machinery. An odd stillness hung in the air, a silence that murmured with whispered secrets and silent screams. A gnarled figure shuffled towards him, face carved by a lifetime of harsh winters and ruthless summers. This was Peter, the junkyard's keeper, an Inuit of indeterminable age. His eyes, deep-set and strangely luminescent, held a certain guarded wariness. "Detective McHugh," he rasped, his voice gravel against the quiet. "You seek answers where there may be none." McHugh's eyes hardened. "I seek the truth, Peter, no matter how elusive," he replied, his determination seeping into his words. "Tell me, have you seen anything odd happening around here?" The old Inuit paused, a shiver of something undefinable passing over his weathered face. This place, detective, it is older than it seems, touched by what lives beyond the veil. Beyond the veil? McHugh echoed, a chill coursing out through his veins. Devourers from beyond, Peter whispered cryptically, his gaze drifting towards the junkyard. His words hung in the air, infusing the scene with a strange dread that seemed almost tangible. Left with Peter's cryptic words, McHugh ventured deeper into the junkyard. A singular oddity caught his attention. A battered teddy bear, its glassy eyes staring blankly into the void. This belonged to one of the missing people. His heart clenched. He was on the right track. As he moved further, he began noticing peculiar symbols, etched onto rusted car doors, woven into the ground with discarded wires. They were uncanny and alien, their presence an anomaly within the realm of the ordinary. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the junkyard transformed. The husks of rusted cars cast monstrous shadows that danced eerily in the waning light. An unease settled within him, an echo of something far more ancient and terrifying than he could comprehend. Peter's words rang in his mind, a chilling refrain to the unfolding mystery. Dusk had draped itself over Ketchikan when he finally left the junkyard. He could feel the weight of countless untold stories bearing down on him, the specter of the unknown gnawing at his resolve. As he drove back, the image of the bizarre symbols and Peter's warning etched itself into his mind. "I need to return," he murmured to the night, his voice swallowed by the icy winds. "I need to know what happens when the world sleeps." Ketchikan slumbered beneath the blanket of night, a spectral echo of its daylight self, as Detective Arthur McHugh returned to the forsaken junkyard. The memories of past losses swirled within him like a chilling eddy, shaping his resolve, fortifying his courage. His siblings had been lost to the unknown, and he'd be damned if he allowed the missing persons to share the same fate. The old junkyard lay in wait, an arena of forgotten shadows. As he traversed the labyrinth of wrecked automotives, he felt as though the rusted giants watched him with the cold, glassy eyes of discarded headlights. The sharp scent of decaying metal and old rubber lingered heavily in the air, a grim incense for the ceremony of the night. Wrapped in the heavy cloak of darkness, he made himself a makeshift camp in the heart of the junkyard. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the quiet hum of nocturnal insects and the sporadic rustling of a lone night breeze. And then, as midnight approached, a peculiar tremor ran through the ground. A chorus of discordant groans rippled through the junkyard, as if the rusted relics were awakening from a deep slumber. A sharp chill ran down his spine, a primal instinct whispering warnings his conscious mind struggled to comprehend. Peter's words echoed in his mind. "Devourers from beyond." He tensed, every instinct screaming at him to flee. Yet he was bound to the truth, anchored by the weight of his responsibility. Slowly, the ground at the heart of the junkyard began to undulate, as if breathing. An ethereal light spilled from the cracks, coalescing into a pulsating portal of mesmerizing terror. It shimmered with an otherworldly glow, a tear in the fabric of reality that bled in eldritch radiance into the world. Then they emerged, shapes unfathomable, silhouettes that twisted and writhed against the laws of nature and geometry. They were of darkness and void, and their very presence seemed to drain the light around them. He felt a crushing dread clawing at his sanity, the incomprehensible terror standing before him a grotesque mockery of all he knew to be true. He watched in abject horror as the entities began to explore the junkyard, their movements a haunting dance that toyed with the boundaries of space and time. He felt himself an intruder, a witness to a forbidden spectacle that mocked the very notions of existence and reality. He retreated, struggling to maintain his sanity amidst the terror. He clutched the earth beneath him, the cold, hard reality, serving as his last tether to the world he knew. His mind was a whirlwind of denial and acceptance, a storm that threatened to consume him. As dawn approached, the entities receded, folding back into the blinding portal until only the memory of their horrific forms remained. The portal contracted, leaving the junkyard as it was, save for the solitary detective grappling with the aftermath of his encounter. Arthur rose, his body heavy, his mind heavier. He was standing on the brink of an abyss, staring into the depths of an unknown that threatened to swallow him whole. Yet he felt an odd calm. He had seen the other side, and it had seen him. "Dawn," he whispered to himself, his voice a shattered echo in the sprawling field of discarded debris. "Dawn is my reprieve, my solace." But as the sunlight streamed into the junkyard, he realized a daunting truth. Dawn was merely a pause, a temporary sanctuary from the cosmic horrors that lurked in the night. And night, as it were, would always return. As he left the junkyard, he carried the chilling knowledge that his understanding of the world and his place within it had been irrevocably fractured. His journey was far from over. He had merely taken the first steps into a much larger and far more terrifying universe. The pristine serenity of the Alaskan daylight held no solace for Detective Arthur McHugh. His encounter with the unearthly beings had left him in a state of uneasy restlessness. He now walked a world that harbored a chilling secret within its bosom, a reality within a reality, an other side seething beneath the ordinary. Back in his office, he pondered over the cryptic symbols he had seen at the junkyard. His thoughts meandered to the old myths of Ketchikan, the tales Peter would often whisper about ancient beings from forgotten realms. The old Inuit's words took on a horrific new significance in light of his encounter. Officer Maggie Smith, the earnest young officer who had been assisting him, came to his office bearing new files and fresh cups of coffee. Her eyes widened as she took in his haggard appearance, the shadow of the unspeakable terror that still clung to him. "Sir," she began, her voice shaky, "you look like you've seen a ghost." "Something far worse, Smith," he replied, his gaze unfocused, his voice a hollow echo. As he described his experience in hushed, tremulous tones, Officer Smith's face paled. Yet the fear in her eyes was countered by a flicker of determination. She shared his pursuit of truth, his relentless need to protect their town, even if it meant courting unspeakable horrors. Together, they pored over the files, attempting to piece together a puzzle that seemed to warp and distort with each new revelation. They sought patterns, clues within the disappearances that could shed light on the entities and their haunting attraction to the junkyard. Days morphed into nights and back into days, a cyclical dance that held a foreboding echo of the portal's pulsating rhythm. Arthur's nightmares were now painted with scenes of the other side, the cryptic symbols seared into his dreams like a brand. Arthur and Maggie became pilgrims of the arcane, their journeys taking them deep into the mysteries of Ketchikan. They consulted scholars and historians, chased down every lead, and even delved into esoteric occult texts. They uncovered a pattern. The symbols belonged to an ancient language, a form of communication between realms, a beacon for the cosmic entities. As the Alaskan sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of twilight, he stood before the junkyard once again. This time, however, he was not alone. Maggie stood beside him, her determination unwavering, her resolve mirroring his own. Together, they faced the night, armed with a newfound understanding, standing firm on the precipice of their sanity. The truth they sought was terrifying, yet they were undeterred. Arthur felt the old scars of his past losses throb, a silent reminder of his mission's personal stakes. "The chasm of the mind," he murmured, his gaze lost in the foreboding expanse of the junkyard, "is where the real battle lies." The quiet of the Alaskan night was pierced by the dissonant harmony of the waking junkyard. Detective Arthur McHugh and Officer Maggie Smith watched as the spectral light once again spilled from the yawning chasm, filling the air with an ethereal, menacing glow. It was time. Standing on the edge of the portal, Arthur felt the old wounds of loss reopen, the phantoms of his siblings whispering amidst the cosmic winds. His gaze was mirrored by Maggie, her own resolve etched into the firm set of her jaw, the fire in her eyes. "The truth," he murmured to the unfathomable void before him, "I offer myself to find it." And with those words, he stepped into the glowing chasm, Maggie following close behind. The world around them warped and twisted, reality itself seeming to scream in protest as they were swallowed by the unearthly radiance. The other side was a realm of chaos, a maddening panorama of alien landscapes and impossible geometries. Cosmic entities drifted around them, their terrifying forms an echo of the nightmarish visions that had plagued his dreams. Yet within this insanity, amidst the mind-shattering horror, he felt a strange clarity. His mind, stretched to its limits, teetered on the brink of understanding. The symbols, the disappearances, the entities, they were all connected, cogs in a horrifying machine that spanned across dimensions. Armed with his newfound understanding, he began to speak, his voice, imbued with the cadences of the ancient language they had discovered, resonated through the other side. The entities paused, their formless faces turning toward him, their attention fixed. He spoke of boundaries and respect, of the sanctity of their separate worlds. He spoke of the lost souls, the unwitting victims of their cosmic dance. And finally, he spoke of a pact, an agreement of non-interference, a plea for peaceful coexistence. The entities listened, their eldritch forms shimmering with each word. The silence that followed was oppressive, a pause that seemed to hang in the balance between annihilation and salvation. And then slowly, the entities began to retreat, their monstrous forms melding into the fabric of the other side. A sense of understanding, a silent acceptance of his plea, hung in the air as the portal began to close. They were unceremoniously expelled back into their world, the silent junkyard greeting their return. As dawn's first light broke over the horizon, the horror of the night seemed nothing more than a dreadful memory. Yet the scars it had left on their souls were indelible, a permanent reminder of the truth they had sought and found. Exhausted but resolute, Arthur and Maggie looked upon the junkyard, their junkyard. They had stared into the abyss and returned, forever changed, marked by the cosmic dance of horror and reality. Their journey had cost them their innocence, their peace, but they had safeguarded their town, their world. They were custodians of a terrifying secret, a truth too heavy for the world to bear. As he took one last look at the junkyard, he felt a sudden, sharp pain course through him. He collapsed, his strength leaving him. The toll of crossing realities, of bridging the abyss, was finally catching up. As his vision blurred, the faces of his siblings appeared before him, ethereal and comforting. He felt a sense of peace envelop him, a soothing balm to the chaos he had endured. "Truth," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper as he drew his last breath. A beacon in the darkness. His eyes closed, his body stilled. Maggie kneeled beside him, her eyes brimming with tears yet filled with a quiet resolve. The baton had been passed. She would carry the truth, guard their reality until her own last stand.